Hello and welcome to this audio tape. I recently had a friend approach me about having trouble with drinking. He knew that I hadn't had a drink for a number of years and wanted to talk to me about how I was able to stop. And we ended up talking about Alcoholics Anonymous, and his reaction was one of disappointment, because he had tried AA and he said that it didn't work for him. I tried to talk to him a little bit more about that, and after we spoke, it became very clear to me that we had quite different opinions about AA, and we'd had very different experiences. And I wanted to make this tape to address some of those differences. Who is this tape for? So this is for people who, like my friend, have tried AA and gone to AA and found that for whatever reason it didn't work for them. And I want to start by saying that I don't speak on behalf of AA. I've been a member for 7 years. I've only had my own experience. I don't know how it is for other people. However, I have watched many people over that time come in and out of AA, and I have made a point to study and observe, and I've always been very interested in what it is that seems to work for some people and not others in the rooms of AA. So I'm only making this to try and be helpful to those people who really do want to stop drinking and find that they can't, and in many ways wish that AA would work for them, because we live in a time today where lots of people are struggling with alcohol and other mental health issues, and there's really not a great deal of support available for them. AA offers great support, and if you're able to get it to work for you. And so I let's get into it, because I want to talk about the 2 or 3 main reasons that I've seen AA not work for people, and what can be done about them. So the first one is the meetings versus the program, and this was the thing that became most clear with my friend when I spoke to him about AA, and he said that he had tried AA but it didn't work for him. And I asked him, okay, what do you mean that you tried AA? And he said, well, I went to a few meetings and I didn't like it. It didn't work. I didn't stay sober. I didn't like the people, and so I didn't go back. And I said, okay, well that's interesting, because the meetings that people go to are not actually AA. So through rehab centres, through television, through word of mouth of what AA is and what people understand AA to be, many people, myself included, until I found out more, believe that AA is a meeting of people, and you go to these meetings of AA and you talk about things, and some people stay sober and other people don't. But that really is not accurate. AA is a 12-step program, and that is a program of action that you take with another person. Very similar to a exercise program in which you would have a personal trainer. So many people are familiar with the term a sponsor. But in AA, generally speaking, you and another person go through the 12 steps of AA, and that 12-step process and program is in fact AA. That is what Alcoholics Anonymous is. It's a set of principles that you practice, and the main object of practicing those principles is to solve your problem with alcohol and otherwise. If you don't do that program of action, then you really cannot say that you've tried AA. To do that, to say that, would be very much the same as going to a gym and watching a lot of other people exercise, and sort of attending the gym a few times and looking at these other people that seem to be exercising and kind of deciding that, well, I didn't lose weight when I went to that gym, so it doesn't work for me. And obviously that sounds silly, right? Obviously everyone would say, well, did you do the exercises? Did you lift the weights? And you would say no, and people would say, well, obviously you didn't try the exercise. But with AA, it's a lot more sort of it's not clear to understand exactly what's going on in these places. It's not as obvious as with a gym, but really that idea is the same. So if you haven't practiced the program, which is taking of the steps, then you really cannot say that you've tried AA. And I think for a lot of people, they simply don't know this. A lot of people think that the meetings are the program, and so if I tried the meetings, I tried AA and it didn't work for me. So I'm hoping that the understanding of that can hopefully give some people a new perspective, and a new realization that, oh, okay, I didn't actually realize that was true, and so maybe it's worth giving it another go and actually doing the program of AA rather than just the meetings. Because when AA started, they didn't have meetings, or they would have one a week, or the meetings were really where people went to meet new people in order to take them through the program, or to get them to take the program, the 12 steps, in order to stay sober and find recovery and ultimately be happier. A final way I'll try to explain that analogy is, hopefully in a way that drinkers will understand, is to consider it like going to the bar. So if you go to the bar and there's a lot of other people there and they're all sat around a table and everyone is kind of talking about drinking, and they're talking about the effects that it has, and let's say they're talking about the good times of drinking. And if you're sat around that table, you might feel the buzz of people talking. It might make you feel better, it might make you this, it might make you that, but unless you actually drink, you don't really get the effect produced by alcohol. And that's again really the same as AA, that you can go to the meetings and listen to the people talk about taking the steps and what the steps did for them, or what AA has done for them, but unless you actually take the steps yourself, unless you take the action yourself, you're not really going to have the experience. And the steps in many ways are like alcohol in the sense that once you sort of, if you take the first step and the second step and even maybe the third step, it's not certain that you're necessarily going to feel anything in the same way that if you have one or two drinks, usually you don't necessarily feel all that much. But by the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and the seventh and the eighth, you really it becomes very obvious that something is happening to you. And the steps are very much the same in that way. So yeah, if you haven't got to say step 8 and 9 before, then I would ask you to try to reconsider the idea that you've tried AA. And if you're willing to do that, then perhaps the idea of trying AA again may appeal to you. The next reason why my friend said that he didn't connect with AA, felt that it didn't work for him, felt that he didn't want to go back there, was because of the people that he saw in the meetings. He didn't identify with the people, he didn't really like the people, especially one or two he just felt were not genuine, or he had issues with them, didn't really want to spend time with them. For this part, I would like to talk about two things, and the first is that AA meetings, which again, as we've kind of spoken about, are not the program. They're not really AA, they're meetings of the fellowship of AA. But at these places, obviously, there's other people, and sometimes people can seem to represent AA. People in the meetings might look up to these people, or these people might talk for a long time, or they might be the ones sitting at the front that are leading the meeting, and they can appear to represent AA as a whole. And similarly, someone like me making a tape like this, it may seem like I'm representing AA as a whole, and the truth is that nobody can do that. I always want to come back to this idea that AA is a set of principles, a set of steps, a program of action that doesn't have a face, doesn't have a voice, is not represented by any person. It's separate from all of that. But there are a bunch of people that are practicing and animating these steps and trying to embody them, or talk about them, or share them, or something like that. And when you're new, it's really important to understand the separation between the principles and the program that is AA and the people that are in AA. So we have a statement in AA that talks about principles before personalities. And that really is trying to help us to see that, even if you don't like or connect with some of the people in AA, trying not to let that stop you from practicing the principles, of giving the program, of giving the steps a go. But let's say that really, there are a couple of people that you just don't like in the meetings for whatever reason. The other thing about AA in most places is that there are so many meetings that have different people that go to them, and in my experience, meetings are very much like bars. Different meetings attract different types of people, in the sense that different bars attract different types of people. Some meetings attract sort of high bottom drunks, some attract people that barely are sort of very low bottom, or different types of stories, and really having that willingness and the open-mindedness to try different meetings until you kind of find the ones that you connect more with the people, can really help, because it's not the case that every meeting has got the ideal people and the fellowship around it that is going to be helpful in enabling you to feel comfortable enough to find a sponsor and practice the steps. So they're kind of the two things. In the appendix of the Big Book of AA, they talk about the spiritual experience, which ultimately is the result of practicing this program, of which is AA, these 12 steps. The point eventually is to have this kind of awakening that the Big Book refers to as a spiritual awakening. And at the end of that, they talk about the biggest obstacle to that, and they talk about it being contempt prior to investigation, making a judgment prior to really having investigated that thing. And so I think when people have knowingly or unknowingly done that in some way, whether they kind of deep down they know they didn't really try it, or if they really believe that they did try it, I'm hoping that kind of going into this stuff a little bit more will help people to see that maybe I didn't actually try AA in the way that I should have tried it, or that I can say, I really tried it. Not to say that it will work for everybody, not to say that it does work for everybody, but I hope that there's a set of people for whom, they might be willing to relook at it, or at least have a better understanding of exactly what AA is and what it isn't.